What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday we had the Nintendo Direct and the Sony State of Play. I talked about the Direct in a video yesterday, but today we'll be going over the State of Play, what was there, and some of my thoughts on it. Also, we are going to be talking about a very strange situation with Microsoft and Nintendo after GoldenEye was announced, missing a key feature actually on the Xbox, and we're also going to be talking about the roadmap that's now been put out there for the Nintendo 64 online service going forward. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and we're going to start today with Babylon's Fall, which is a game that struggled basically since it released. In fact, over the summer, it was spotted at one point there were 0 concurrent players in this game on Steam. Well, unsurprising to anyone, it looks like the game is being shut down. We can see this posted up over on the Babylon's Fall website under the headline "Notice regarding the termination of the Babylon's Fall service." They say, with the desire of delivering an exhilarating online multiplayer action RPG set in an elaborate high fantasy world, we launched the game's official service on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, and have continued to undertake additional development and operations. However, it is with deep regret to inform you that we will be terminating the game service on February 27th, 2023. It didn't quite make it an entire year, and I mean, not the best outing, I would say, for Square Enix and Platinum Games, but if no one's showing up for the game and it's a live service title that relies on concurrent player count and engagement, then you're just kind of wasting time and money. So even though they had plans for, I believe, more content going into 2023 with, I'm sure, another season and Battle Pass, who are you really selling it to? So yeah, I guess at this point, they're cutting their losses and they're just getting rid of Babylon's Fall and shutting it down, which is a game that specifically exists online. So basically, after March 2023, this game will cease to exist, and the only people who remember it are like the 10 people who were actually checking it out in the first place. Also, heading into Tokyo Game Show, it looks like we can expect an announcement for a PC port of Judgment and Lost Judgment. This was spotted by Wario64 over on Twitter, saying Judgment and Lost Judgment showing up on ESRB ratings with PC versions, both of which you can see here in the screenshot. And originally there were some issues with these PC ports because the likeness of the main character and seemingly concerns from their agency around modifications in the game. Of course, when games go to PC, there are a lot of mods adding things into the game, changing different characters' appearances, or just outright replacing them, as we've seen with Spider-Man and things like Kermit the Frog being in the game. I guess in this case, though, they worked it out, and I'm expecting this to be announced at some point during Tokyo Game Show, as that is coming up here in a couple of days. So if you're on PC and you're curious about these games, look forward to that one. Oh, and sticking with PC here for a minute, it also looks like Triangle Strategy is going to be making the move to that platform. We can see this posted up over on Gamatsu, where they say Triangle Strategy coming to PC on October 13th. This released back in early March on the Switch as a console exclusive, and I guess, 6 or 7 months later, it's going to be making the move over to PC, which, I mean, is good. We've seen a lot of these Team Asano, Square Enix games, and HD2D eventually find their way over to PC, and even games like Bravely Default 2 working over to that platform. It's just more people getting a chance to check out these games, and at this point, we're seeing more and more HD2D titles get announced, with Octopath Traveler being the most recent experience. So any money Team Asano can get right now to put towards more development, absolutely go for it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a massive announcement that happened during that Nintendo Direct, especially from the historical side of things, and that is GoldenEye 007 from the Nintendo 64. This is the only place it's ever been announced, and there's a lot of history to this, with an entire remake that was done but then shelved and canceled seemingly at the last minute, and it leaked out last year, and for the most part, anyone who wanted to try it did, and it was a really good version of the game. But now we have another version of the game to look forward to, releasing on Nintendo Switch through that Switch Online expansion pack, and on the Xbox. In fact, if we look over on news.xbox.com, they have an entire page dedicated to this announcement, going over some of the improvements. They say the classic campaign mode, transformative difficulty levels, and havoc-inducing cheats will all make their return. Really cool, by the way, that the different cheats will be in there, so I guess you'll be able to kind of go through that like in the old days. They say, as will the iconic split-screen local multiplayer mode, allowing up to 4 players to take to the couch in a battle of wits and skill. The original experience has been updated with improved control options, including dual analog stick support, which, by the way, was huge for Perfect Dark when that had its like port and remaster on the Xbox. It made it way better. They'll say native 16:9 resolution, up to 4K Ultra HD where supported, a consistent refresh rate, and a full complement of achievements to unlock. So I guess unfortunately you won't be able to tank that frame rate down to like 5 frames per second when you blow up a bunch of like remote mines. The game will be heading to Xbox One, Xbox Series as part of Game Pass, or if you own a digital copy of Rare Replay, it'll just be going into your library free of charge, which is really cool. There's one issue here. They in no way mentioned online multiplayer for the Xbox, which is very strange because it was mentioned by Nintendo during that direct. Right at the end, it came up and said online support and all this under coming soon. And if you take a look at 007.com for the press release, they say exclusive to the new Switch version of the 1997 title will be online play, allowing 007 fans across the world to take part in the popular 4-person multiplayer mode together. Yes, you heard that right. The Nintendo Switch version will have online multiplayer, but the Xbox version will not, which is some weird alternate reality and universe that we may have fallen into here. Actually, the best explanation I've seen, because right now there's a lot of speculation for this. I have seen some publications like The Verge mention they've reached out to Microsoft to try to get some sort of answer as to why this is, but the speculation currently is the terms and agreements that were made behind the scenes just to make this happen in the first place, because there were several rights holders involved, Nintendo, Microsoft, and MGM, I believe. But the idea is they had one version of the game, Microsoft being able to take that version and essentially upscale it to 4K and have dual analog support included in there. But I guess they wouldn't be able to mess around with the game too much to add online support to it, because Nintendo technically has an N64 emulator that has online support built in. Remember, when you're going to be playing this on your system for the Switch, you'll still be in that 4-player mode where you'll be able to see everyone's screen. It'll play basically like tunneling software almost back in the day with the original Xbox or the PS2, and it would make it seem like you were in the same house with each other, but of course you could have been in different parts of the world, and it just sort of tricked the system into it. So in that case, Nintendo just by default will have online support without having to alter or change the game itself. I think the part of this entire story that is a real shame is that that version of the game, that remake, I guess couldn't be released. That's unfortunate because it was a very good version of the game. There was a multiplayer aspect to it, and you were able to jump between the original visuals and the newer ones that they remade. So I guess that's going to remain shelved for now, and we'll have this version of the game. But if you want to play through the campaign, seems like the Xbox would have the best way to do that. And if you want to play online with your friends, you can go ahead on the Switch. Like I said, definitely a weird setup here, but just to get this done so it could see the light of day, I'm sure was a massive accomplishment on its own. Next up, let's talk about that Sony State of Play. It was about 20 minutes long, and they showed off 10 games, as was mentioned in their PlayStation blog, and they had a pretty good closeout for this with a new trailer for their next big release. But first, let's start from the top with Tekken 8. This is something that was teased prior, so we kind of knew we were going to see Tekken 8 at some point in time, but they showed off an initial cutscene, and then it seemed to like go into gameplay. I will admit, the fighting games now are looking really, really good visually, so it's kind of hard to tell if we're in like gameplay or cinematics and stuff, but it looked like we were moving into gameplay there. They just said stay tuned, but only showed the PS5 logo. Now, they won't show an Xbox logo or even PC most of the time at the State of Play, so we'll see if we get more information as to if it is just a PlayStation 5 exclusive title. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy Edge, that is PlayStation VR 2 in 2023. Then we had Demeo, that's also PlayStation VR 2. An interesting one here was Like a Dragon Ishin. That's February 2023 for PS4 and PS5. We should see more information about this, I think, in the next 24 to 48 hours from the RGG event. But I had to look into this a bit. It was never released outside of Japan. From what I've seen, it came out on the PS3 and the PS4. And the PS4 version nearly got a perfect score in Famitsu, coming in with a 39 out of 40. So I'm interested in this one. Hogwarts Legacy got shown again, I guess just to remind us that it exists and it's coming out. Pacific Drive, it's coming out 2023 for the PlayStation 5. Kind of drove around in like a station wagon for a bit there. Some weird things happening, and that was kind of it. Then we had PlayStation Stars, which is their new loyalty program that they introduced earlier this year. It's free to join. They did show off some of the digital collectibles, for example, an Ape Escape figure or even the PlayStation 3 system itself. It's going to be rolling out to Asia here soon, and then it'll be heading to the Americas in the weeks following. Sin Duality. I wrote down it's a mining action game with mechs. So I think that explains it well enough. 2023. Then we had Project Eve, which now has its official name. That's Stellar Blade, coming out 2023 for the PlayStation 5 specifically. This is a game that we had revealed in a different state of play, from what I remember, and it's very reminiscent of like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta style game, kind of that fast-paced action beat-em-up style game. So pretty cool there to see that one. Rise of the Ronin. I am liking what I'm seeing here with this one, 2024, so they definitely announced it a bit in advance. It's coming out on the PS5. Action RPG from Team Ninja. It looks faster and more over the top than something like a Ghost of Tsushima. They showed parts of it. It looked like it was going to be almost like an open world or open zone style game, but again, I'm keeping my eye on this one. I liked what I saw there. Then we closed out with the big one, and that's God of War Ragnarok. Although I will say, when they first showed the special edition PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, I wasn't sure if they were trolling us here or not. Like, the big closeout is a new controller. But no, they had a lot more to show, and one of the best trailers I've seen in a long time for God of War Ragnarok. They showed off all kinds of new gameplay, different settings, environments, story elements with Atreus, and at the end, we see Kratos and Thor clashing over and over again. The game is looking absolutely fantastic leading up to launch in November. Now, leading up to the state of play yesterday, there were some talks to maybe lower the expectations a bit. And to be fair, some of the predictions and things that people were hoping to see there being brought up, like Metal Gear Solid Remake and Silent Hill and all these, they weren't really there. So it makes sense to be like, lower expectations a little bit, but like God of War, I think for a lot of people, if they weren't really feeling that state of play, they saw that and it was like, wow, okay, that was really good. Overall, though, it felt like it moved through the 20 minutes pretty quick, and that tends to happen when you have 10 different games to show off almost in a rapid-fire succession and not have to spend too much time on any one game. But let me know what you thought of the state of play overall. I thought it was pretty good. I'd have it there at like a solid B. Next up, let's talk about the Nintendo 64 expansion pass, as we had more games revealed essentially going into 2023. This is a pretty quick part of that Nintendo Direct that I'm sure some people maybe overlooked a bit, so I thought we would take a quick look at it and see where we are with some of these titles. And we have this screenshot here from the Direct, as well as a list over on Nintendo Life. I'll leave a link to that below in the sources. But in 2022, so over the next couple of months now, we'll have Pilot Wings 64, Mario Party, and then Mario Party 2 release. I don't know if this is just an order of release or if they are going to mix it up. I guess we'll find out here in a month or so and see if Pilot Wings is up first or if they just do Mario Party instead. I think it'd be better to split some of these up. So do like Mario Party, then Pilot Wings, then Mario Party 2, then Pokemon Stadium, then Mario Party 3, for example. Going into 2023, we have Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excite Bike 64. Pokemon Stadium is a lot of fun. If we ever do get Game Boy, as the emulator for this has already leaked out, I think it'd be cool if we had Pokemon Stadium on the Switch, and then we also had like Pokemon Red or Blue, and then eventually Gold and Silver for Stadium 2, and we could have interaction with something like the transfer pack for that. That would actually be a really fun and interesting idea and added functionality for the online service. But at the very least, 5 N64 games in 2023 will indeed lead us up to June So up to the next big E3 Direct, we assume, as E3 is going to attempt to make a return next year, and I'm sure Nintendo, having 5 Nintendo 64 games out for next year, kind of has that roadmap internally planned out now, and maybe that's when they start talking about another system, which would be Game Boy. And like I said, I think it would be cool to tie it into some of these games for the Nintendo 64 with that expansion pack. Otherwise, though, you know what? It's cool to have all these different Mario games get thrown in there for Mario Party. And I actually like Excite Bike. That was a fun game back in the day, and I wouldn't mind revisiting it, even though some of these games I'm sure haven't aged the best. I will at least say with the N64 online service, it cleans them up well enough so that, okay, you can have some fun with it here and there. And then some of the online play, maybe with Mario Party, could be a pretty good time. I think I would play Mario Party 2 the most. That out of the 3 was definitely my favorite there. But let me know what you think about the selection of Nintendo 64 games that have been kind of laid out here going into 2023 and which one you're looking forward to the most. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a game that people were hoping to see at that Nintendo Direct yesterday, but wasn't there. And no, I'm not talking about Metroid Prime Remaster or Wind Waker or Twilight Princess. I'm talking about a game that Nintendo has already revealed, shown it off completely in a Direct, had a release date, but then delayed it indefinitely, and that's Advanced Wars Reboot Camp. Unfortunately, it wasn't at the Direct yesterday, which obviously has brought up a lot of questions around what's going on with this title now. Well, we do have a response from Nintendo when asked about this. We can see this over on Twitter from Steven Totillo, who says, I asked Nintendo if Advanced Wars 1+2 has been canceled, given the lack of news about it since it was delayed due to the invasion of Ukraine. Nintendo reps reply, the release has been delayed. We will announce the new date once it has been determined. So I guess the good news is they're still saying, hey, it's not been canceled. Steven brings up, hey, is it canceled? Well, no, it's just still delayed. So that's good that they're not just shelving the thing indefinitely and just never comes out. But Nintendo delaying it in the first place almost is like, well, we have to wait until things in the world calm down and there's a resolution. But like, it's at this point, Advanced Wars may end up being a next-gen release because it does seem like it's going to be ongoing for a while still. So I'm not sure how Nintendo navigates this one at all. Clearly, they didn't want to deal with any of the PR they'd had to go through by releasing it when it was supposed to come out. So now why would they deal with it currently unless they're thinking, oh, it's quieted down in the news a bit. Maybe we can just kind of push this one out quietly on the way out of 2022. But something tells me at this point, or it's going to be a while before we see anything again about Advanced Wars Reboot Camp. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Nintendo Direct a letter grade. 40% at B, 31% at C, 13% at A, and then 9% at D, and 7% at F. I don't really know if I'd go as far as to give it an F. I was right there between B and C. Looking back on it now, just for the sheer number of titles that they went over, I guess I'd probably go up to like a B or a B- in that case. I get it though, if you're not really into RPGs, you might have looked at it and said, you know what, this just wasn't a Direct for me at all. But I mean, having The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, getting that official title at the end of it with Tears of the Kingdom was pretty cool. They keep showing little bits of this game, almost like they're trying to skirt around something, and I do believe there's some big like element to this game that we don't know about yet, and that might be a grand reveal heading into the release in May. Maybe they show it off in its own Nintendo Direct, or it's something during a Direct to get next year started, but I guess we'll see as we get into 2023. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Kale saying, my only Direct prediction is that people will be disappointed in it afterwards, as it will seem underwhelming considering how long it's been. You can probably make that prediction for any General Direct. This one, though, had been since February. Like, we didn't have an E3 General Direct. So hype was already through the roof, and then even more so because it had been so long. But if you feel like you're going into one of these Directs and you're just too excited, too hyped up, remember the wise words from MVG. Prepare for disappointment. And that way, if it's actually a really good Direct, you'll just be surprised afterwards. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the strange GoldenEye situation with Microsoft not having online for the Xbox version, but Nintendo having online for the Switch version. And then also, what about that Sony State of Play? What were your overall thoughts on it? And what about Advanced Wars Reboot Camp? When does Nintendo release this thing? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.